Hey everyone, thanks for listening in. My name is Nick Cholera, and this is the 2020 Project Podcast. The goal of this project is to share the stories and insights from young adults living with visual impairments. Focusing on those disorders not correctable by prescription lenses, this show aims to help explain what living with one of these conditions as a young person really looks like. I myself was diagnosed with Stargardt's disease, which is a form of juvenile macular degeneration, when I was 15, and the disease has had dramatic consequences on my life in the 7 years since. Wanting to learn more about other visual impairments and the stories of those managing them, I went online and dug into the research. Realizing there wasn't any easily digestible contemporary content addressing the topic, I decided to record this mini-series of podcast episodes to help share the day-to-day perspectives of young adults living with visual impairments. Today, I'll be chatting with Blake Engelmeyer about his diagnosis and experience with X-Linked Juvenile Retinoschisis, which is an inherited disorder that causes loss of central and peripheral vision due to retinal degeneration. XLRS leads to vision loss due to the splitting of retinal layers, which leads to degeneration of photoreceptors. It's caused by mutations in the gene that processes the RS1 protein, which acts as an adhesive to hold the retinal layers together. Vision loss from XLRS is typically progressive and not correctable by glasses. Diagnosis typically happens within childhood, and there is no cure currently available. Blake is a current first-year student at the University of Alabama studying Management Information Systems, and the conversation covers his diagnosis process, how he currently manages living with the condition, and much more. Please join me in welcoming Blake to the show, and I hope you all enjoy the conversation. Alright, so I'm sitting here with Blake, who has a visual impairment, which we'll get into what exactly it is, how it affects his life, his diagnosis process, and any advice he might have for someone that might have been recently diagnosed with the same disorder. And I think it should be really helpful and an interesting conversation. So Blake, if you just want to start with introducing yourself, just where you grew up, academics, how that was, where you're from.
Yeah, my name is Blake Engelmeyer. I'm currently a freshman at Alabama, and I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. I don't know.
Yeah, you can talk about like involvements, just growing up, what you were involved in, things like that.
I enjoy sports. I really like sports. Video games is a big one for me, and a little bit of schooling. Definitely not the best student, not the worst though.
Cool. Yeah. And where are you from originally?
St. Louis, Missouri. Yeah.
Cool. And after that, we'll just get into it. If you want to talk about how, first, if you want to describe what your condition is, and then, the sort of how you've been described what that condition is by your doctors, how it affects you on a day-to-day basis in terms of your vision, and then if you want to get into how you were first diagnosed.
Yeah. So let's see. My diagnosis is X-Linked Juvenile Retinoschisis. I was diagnosed probably about, I'd say 6 or 7, real early on. You have to read those questions.
No worries. Just what it is. Is, how it impacts you, and when you were first diagnosed, and what that process was like.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed probably about 6 or 7, and what it is it's passed down. It's a genetic disease that it's an eye impairment. It separates it's a problem with the protein in the retina, and so the way I was told is it kind of lays, like your retina's like layers, and as time goes on, my layers start to separate while a normal person's stays good. So mine start to separate, and my vision gets worse as a result. The disease is passed down. X-linked means it's genetic, so my mom gave it to me, and so when I have kids, they won't have a chance to have it, but their kids will have a chance to have it, if that makes any sense.
Got it. And what's it called again?
X-Linked Juvenile Retinoschisis.
Got it. Cool. So When did you first realize that something was, awry with your vision, and then you might need to get it checked out? What were those early conversations with either your teachers or parents or whoever it was like?
I had no idea when I was a kid. I just thought everybody saw it like I saw, and it probably wasn't as bad as it is now because it's a degenerative eye disease. My eyes have gotten worse over time. So when I was a kid, I was playing in the back of the car with my brother, and my brother's kind of an asshole, and he poked me right in my eye, and my eye started puffing up, and so my mom, as a result, took me to the eye doctor, where they got my eyes tested, and they're like, "There's something wrong with this kid's eye," because there's one. I don't know if you've ever been to an eye doctor. When they do the light in your eyes, they're looking at your retina, and they're like, "Well, there's a big black blotch on this guy's eye," and so then I went to a retina specialist, and this is all 6-7-year-old, and they did a bunch of tests, and they diagnosed me with X-Linked Retinoschisis.
Got it. So around 6 or 7. So
that's
pretty young in terms of schooling too. So.
Yeah, elementary school, probably I would say second grade, first, second grade.
Got it. Obviously, we're not doing much work there, but you hadn't noticed anything in terms of like your schooling or anything.
No, I noticed that other kids could see the board a lot better than me, and if I sat in the back, I could not learn a thing. I'd have to sit real close up. Still do now.
Got it. When you were diagnosed, did they tell you anything about clinical trials or potential cures or anything? What information did they give you?
Potential cures have cropped up recently with stem cell research, and there's preventatives now for similar diseases that they shoot some stem cells in the eyes and it stops the progression of the disease. They don't have that for mine because it's very rare. I think 1 in 10,000 is what I read. So they're not going to really invest much time into that. What was the other thing you said?
No, that was basically it.
Okay.
Yeah, just anything that they told you about, different trials and whatnot.
Yeah.
When you were first diagnosed, once you got the diagnosis, do you remember getting involved with your high school guidance counselor or any ODS type office in elementary school?
Yeah, in elementary school, not so much till later on because we were trying to figure it out if it affected me, how bad it was. But later on, the teachers would sit me closer to the board, and no accommodations in elementary school. Middle school, the same thing. They'd email my teachers to put me closer to the board, and then later on, I got accommodations for like bigger tests and extra time, and just certain online reading, tech stuff.
Got it. And so, progressing through middle school and especially high school, what was that? What was that like when you were just in high school classes? Obviously now you're actually reading textbooks and things like that.
Yeah.
What was the experience like?
It sucks. I hate reading. Reading sucks for me. It hurts my brain. Takes a lot of concentration. So reading's not my favorite, and I hate also looking real closely at a screen. You're straining your eyes all the time. So, not a big reader. I'm trying to be, but I really hate it.
Yeah.
No, and I'd say, what do you call it? Do you know what strabismus is?
I don't know. That'd be great if you could explain
So
that.
strabismus, for lack of better words, is double vision.
Okay.
And so that's one of the side effects of my disease is one, bad vision, and then strabismus can come about, especially during puberty. So around that time, I was like looking at the TV, and my vision started to everything had a shadow on it, and then it slowly grew and grew and grew and grew. And so there was a time in my life, I think it was between middle school and sophomore year of high school, where by sophomore year it was completely double. My eyes were not looking in the same direction, and it made reading really hard because now you're not using the power of both your eyes, and both eyes are not as good. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of, again, growing up, on a more personal level, just, you said you like sports, did it start affecting you in any of your sports or any just like day-to-day activities outside of academics?
Yeah, completely. I come from a very athletic family. My dad played baseball in college. He tried to go pro, didn't make it. My brother played baseball in college, and so, I should play baseball in college. Can't do that, can't see the ball. I played outfield one too many times and the ball goes up, and I'm like, where the hell did that thing go?
Yeah.
And so baseball's not on the table. But another thing is, I was diagnosed at a time where the doctors all were saying different things, and one of the doctors said, two doctors said this, that my eyes were like wet tissue paper. They said this to my parents. My eyes are like wet tissue paper, and if I get hit hard enough, that tissue paper will rip, and I'll lose vision in one or both of my eyes. So being a mother hearing this, you're like, my kid's never playing contact sports.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's all I wanted to do as a kid. I still want to do it now, is play contact sports. And so they put me in sports goggles. They did all this sort of thing. And I looked like a complete dork in middle school. Wearing these huge goggles and running around.
Yeah. In terms of either when you first got diagnosed or growing up with it, do you think there's any like big common misconceptions about the way you see, either when you're just messing around with your friends, or when people ask you about it, maybe when teachers ask you about it here at college? Like, are there any misconceptions or misunderstandings that people have about the way you see or don't see?
Yeah, absolutely. Some people get like things way too close to my face, and I'm like, I'm not that bad. I could still see it. But the biggest one is people see me with glasses, and I'm sure you get this. I wonder if it's a common experience, but they see me with glasses and they're like, okay. They don't understand that glasses don't fix
It's a
vision.
separate problem.
Yeah, they don't understand. Just the other day, I had a friend, he was like, you're wearing glasses, why can't you see, like, what? They think glasses fix everything, which I guess, I've never had that thought, but it's happened throughout my entire life, is people think glasses fix everything.
Yeah. No, that is definitely common. Yeah, for me as well. I have Stargardt's disease, juvenile macular degeneration, so partially blind. For anyone listening, but it's a complete common thing is like, oh, you have bad vision, but that's fixed by your glasses, right? I'm like, no.
And they don't fathom. I had a dude arguing with me the other day. He's like, no, but your vision's fixed.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one to address. That misconception is definitely very common.
Yeah, my glasses prescription really isn't that strong either.
That's the other thing. So they'll try on your glasses.
Like,
you ever do that?
Yeah, they'll try.
And they're like, oh, this is better than mine.
Yeah, like, this is better than my vision. I'm like,
right.
No.
Right. I'm curious. This is just came a thought in my head is like, have you ever thought about getting LASIK for the vision problems that glasses do address? Have you thought about how that would impact your retinal problem? Or it's like, have you ever thought about that?
Yeah. So I actually brought this up with a multitude of doctors. I had a very good mom. She took me to a lot of doctors. And the consensus, I think now, some of them said don't do it, some of them said do it, but we got enough of them saying that you'd be fine, that I will be getting LASIK, but I'm going to do it later on in life when my vision starts to decline in my 50s, 50s, 60s. I think that's the time when I'll get LASIK, and hopefully, God willing, they'll have a preventative shot for my eyes at some point in there, and get LASIK later on. So, sure. But yeah, that was a huge problem growing up. So we were like, can you get LASIK? Can you not? But I'm definitely going to do that later on.
Got it. Yeah, interesting. And I think we covered it a little bit. We covered how the disease impacts your eyes, at like a moment in time, how it affects your vision right now. Can you talk a little bit more about the progression of the disease, the average progression of the disease, like what is expected? You mentioned like being 50, 60, and we were talking earlier about like waves that the disease comes in. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, my understanding is it's kind of waves now, because my vision's kind of stabilized for now. Puberty got better than worse, and right now it's about the same, but it sucks because you can feel your vision getting worse, and now that I'm old enough to like realize that I'm not able to see things, I feel like you'll hear like 60-year-olds talking about their vision declining. That's what I feel like right now. It's like, I can't see this anymore, and it's frustrating. It's really frustrating, and it sucks in like all types of interactions. Social, schoolwork is one thing. Like schoolwork, having bad vision in school, especially in college when you're sitting way far back, really, really sucks. And the accommodations can only help so much, especially when you're used to it one way. When I had good vision or okay vision. But I don't know, not being able to see someone's facial expressions is a real problem for me.
That's a big one. It
sucks, because like usually you can see when you're boring somebody, but if you can't see that you're boring somebody, it's I feel like I'm being intolerable to people, but I don't know.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a big one for me too. Or it's like even if you're walking, for us college students, like walking around campus, for example, people always will be like, "Hey, I saw you. You didn't even see me." Like, or I said hi, but they were farther away. It's like, "Oh, I waved. I didn't." It's like that sort of thing. It's like I can't see. So have you experienced that?
The amount of times I get that, like, you just ignored me, and I'm like, I had no idea you were there. And people will legitimately, I'm an unaware person already, but then put bad vision on top of it. It's just, it gets really annoying. It's frustrating. You just want to be like everybody else.
Yeah, sure. How did you think coming to college or choosing a career? I don't know which came first for you. Some people know what they want to do and then go to college for that.
Mm-hmm.
Other people go to college and then figure out what they want to do. But like, how did you think about either going to college or figuring out a general career track you might want to pursue? And did your vision influence your decision when you were thinking about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. My whole life I've been kind of like nonchalant about it because I just want to prove that, it doesn't affect me. But, when picking my major, I was like, oh shoot, like I might actually not be able to see one day. And that really affects a career choice if you think about it. And not even being able to see well at some jobs is a problem. So, I thought about comp sci because comp sci is good, but I went with MIS. But I mean, it really affected my decision because it took a lot out of the equation, which helped and didn't in my decision.
Definitely. And did you remember talking to like parents or again high school counselors or people here at Alabama about that type of stuff, or was that more just in your own head?
I did come to a career advisor here. They kind of didn't help, but then I've had a bad time with advising, actually. I went to a couple different advisors, and they're like, well, you could always do this, this, and this, but they don't really help. It's really just, you got to deal with it on your own. Everybody's got their problems, and I just figure it's one of mine that I got to deal with.
Yeah. Kind of in that same vein, do you wish you had any support or any like guidance early on, either maybe less relevant for when you got diagnosed because it was super young, but maybe even in high school or coming here? Is there something that, even though you've realized it is your problem and you kind of have to deal with it, is there something you wish kind of support that you think would be really helpful for people in a similar situation?
I mean, I had a lot of support. I think the thing is that like with mine, there's not much you can do. There's no help. I mean, you can talk to your teachers and whatever, and somebody in like a less fortunate situation than me, they're not going to be able to do that, and so, there is some things you can do. Talk to friends, talk to family, and let people know that you have this problem so they can accommodate you in any situation.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have a girlfriend and she'll like read things out for me, which is great. I mean, that's awesome having someone read a menu for me because I cannot see it.
Mm-hmm.
Or somebody, someone holds. Okay, this is a side note, but when people ever try to show you things on their phone?
Yeah.
I can never see what they're showing me, so I always gotta like fake laugh and like it's the worst because I feel like, stop showing me this. I have no idea what you're showing me. I hate it. Sorry, I got sidetracked. You gotta get me back on top.
No worries. Just like, is there any like formalized support you wish you had, in terms of academics, career, personal, whatever?
There is formalized support.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can apply to things, go to the doctor, get accommodations at schools. Schools will give you, especially like standardized testing. If you have bad vision, they'll give you bigger tests, bigger text.
And you mean at high schools?
Yeah, at high schools.
Yeah.
At high schools. I think the social part is definitely the part that nobody will tell you. Like, there's things you can do for other things, but socially, dealing with eye problems is kind of, you're on your own. Nobody really gives you any advice. And I don't know if I have any advice to give, really. I mean, I really thought about it. I guess one thing that, you should do is become a really good listener. Because if you're not able to see the person, you're not able to make eye contact. Well, you can make eye contact, but you know that they can't see you, or you can't see them. But become a very good listener. You got to really hear what other people are saying and be able to process it. I'm working on that. I'm still bad at it, and then I don't know, Yeah, I think listening. Just listening to people.
Being attentive.
Being attentive and being able to respond to people. Because
Sure.
it's hard to be in the moment when you can't see. It really is, like, not, like, I zone out a lot because I just can't see things. And so I'm like, I'm just going to go in my head.
That's another thing that people don't talk about. Like, a lot of these things I'm glad we're covering in this, because these are the things that even on your diagnosis, like your doctors or genetic counselors, whoever it is not going to tell you.
No.
Because they personally don't have that experience, and it's not been well researched. Actually, that was the genesis of this project, is I've done like research into it, and a lot of these things, there's been micro studies on it in some papers published, but for the average person looking stuff up online, you can't find a lot of this stuff.
Nothing.
And that's kind of the goal with this podcast.
Yeah, I think, well, obviously, having eye problems changes how you interact with the world, but it also changes how you think, changes how you interact with other people, and it changes how you approach situations how a normal person would. You're not as predictable as other people, because now, you know, and like zoning out is a huge one for me. Cause if you can't see anything, imagine, like, close your eyes and then try to, like, pay attention to things. It's a lot harder. You know, sight is a big sense, and I don't know. I'm scared to be blind one day. It's gonna suck.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. So either in high school or coming into college, switching gears again to a little bit like more academics, right, or career focused, is how are you keeping up with your academics? Clearly, sitting in the back of the room will be unhelpful, whereas sitting in the front might help. But how do you think about that? Does sitting in the front help? What sort of other accommodations have you gotten? And have they been through ODS or kind of on your own for keeping up with classes and schoolwork?
Yeah. So yes, I have ODS accommodations, and those are in the form of extra time.
Okay. Which
really helps because I read real slow. So extra time is great. I also think real slow. I don't know if you can tell. But those are great. And then I have the accommodation for being able to blow up text on a computer, which doesn't help because it makes you read real slow because the text is huge and you got to scroll a lot. It actually is not the best system ever. I don't know what you're supposed to do, but yeah, blowing up the text makes you read even slower. So, no, sorry. What was the last part of that question? Sorry.
It was just just any other tricks, I guess, or your process for in class note taking, doing schoolwork, reading, exams. So anything else outside of what you just mentioned?
Yeah, I think memorizing things is harder when you can't see, because a lot of times I think when people memorize, they memorize like a picture. You know, they write some text down, they remember them seeing the text, like look at the text. So I think memorizing for me is hard already because I'm a little dumb, but I'll get back to that. But sit at the front of the class. That's the best thing you can do, because one, it makes you pay attention more because the teacher's looking at you and you're closer to the teacher, closer to the person talking. You can hear better, and then you can see the board better. And even if you can't see the board at all, if you're that blind, still sit near the front. It'll help you listen better. It'll help you pay attention better. So sitting at the front of the class is embarrassing, but you just got to get over it and sit at the front.
And when you do sit in the front, with where your vision is at right now, can you see the board in terms of like, if it's a math class, for example, or something like that, can you see what's being written on the board?
Most times. I actually took a comp sci class, and I dropped it because I could not see what he was writing on the board.
Okay.
And I could have gotten some accommodations for it, but it was just such a hassle, and I have to be taught something I can't really learn on my own, so I could teach myself comp sci, but that was a big one. That really upset me because I couldn't see the board, and it's real frustrating because you can't stop the lecture to be like, can you tell me what it says? And you don't want to bother the person next to you. And that's another thing. Be able to bother the people around you to tell you what things are. That's a big one. Get over that fear. Yeah.
Did you notice with COVID, actually, there were like a lot of changes happening, right, in terms of how teachers taught, professors taught, a lot of posted lectures online, things like that. Did you notice anything in that, as that was happening, which I guess you were in high school? Did any of that help or hurt
My school was weird. We only had online first semester, so we were in
Okay.
school. We just had a lot of restrictions, which is weird on its own. But the for the vision part of this, the online stuff was good to an extent because one, it's hard to pay attention when I have all the distractions around me.
Mhm.
But now I have the teacher's face right in front of me, and I can like really look and see. And then they also screen share, so then you're able to see the notes as you're doing it. So for like having bad vision, that's great because
Mhm.
now I can see all the notes like it's like they're my notes. And so that was a big thing. On online, it was a lot easier to. I could slow down, go at my own pace, and look at actually absorb the things. Didn't have to be as, attentive.
Attentive.
Attentive. There it is with what she's saying, and I could actually read along with her a lot better.
Got you. Okay.
Attentive.
What about other things you're involved in, like any sports you do still play, and how do you adapt to that, right? Even if it's just pickup or casual.
Yeah.
And you mentioned video games, so any impact there and how you deal with it?
So maybe this goes to helping vision, because oddly enough, I'm drawn to things that for a vision impaired person they probably shouldn't be doing, or I think they should, but probably they wouldn't be drawn to it. And so like the video games I like are like fast paced. You got to be really paying attention. You have to be able to see. So like Counter-Strike or something where you're moving real fast and you have to like flick to people's heads that are far away. Like I'm testing. To me it's like I'm testing my vision, my reaction time. How in tune can I get my eyes to the rest of my body? And that goes to athletics as well. I started playing squash 2 years ago, and what squash is it's kind of like racquetball, if you know what that is. You bounce the ball off the wall. But the ball is a lot smaller. It's a tiny little black ball. And for some reason, I really like the sport, but people are like, why do you play that sport if you're blind? Because they can barely see the ball. And I'm like, I don't know. I like testing myself. I like growing skills because sight is one of your senses, but you can, for vision impaired, it's not over for you. You know, I can still see the little black object flying, and I'm training my brain to get better and better at it. So if you do have a vision impairment, doing things that challenge your vision, I think, are very good. And an example is my grandfather. I was telling about you before we started recording. They misdiagnosed him with Stargardt's.
Yeah.
And so he just had really bad vision. He probably had what I had. We don't really know. He didn't bother going to the eye doctor. He didn't bother with high school.
Not as great records kept.
Yeah. But he was very blind, more blind than me, and I went hunting with him one time, and this man could see a deer from very far away. He was a killer shot, but he was blind as a bat. Man couldn't see a thing. But when it came to hunting or what he was passionate or good at, it's like the vision didn't matter. Like he was pointing out deer really far. I'm like, I can't see that. One thing, I'm very bad at deer hunting because I can't see, but he was so good at it, and he was so much more blind than me. So where I'm getting is if your vision's bad, it limits you in some areas, but it doesn't stop you from doing the things that you want. I mean, he was a killer shot. It was kind of a little crazy, actually.
Yeah, would you characterize it as you can't help your vision necessarily, but when you engage in things like squash or whatever it is to you, right, for your grandfather, deer hunting, whatever it is, it helps you, putting yourself in new situations in terms of your eyesight and how you use it can help you learn new tips and tricks almost in terms of like, or it helps you like understand how your vision actually works better when you put yourself in new situations.
Yeah, I'd like to think of it as you're learning how to use your eyes.
Yeah.
Your eyes are a tool, they're a part of your body, they're a tool. Just like your hands are kind of tools.
Yeah.
So you're just learning how to use them better.
Yes.
You have your tool is what it is.
Your toolkit is what it is.
Someone might have a sharper knife. Mine's a little dull, but I'm gonna use it. I'm gonna figure out how I can use it to the best of my ability.
Right. Right.
And I think that's kind of what it is. And it sucks with some things that you just can't get over, like reading or whatever. But you can. All hope isn't gone. You can find your certain things that you like to do.
Yeah, and I've found that sometimes you can surprise yourself, right? If you happen to be decent at squash, right, that might have surprised you the first time you tried. It's like, wait, I actually can see at least enough to, hit the ball or partake in the game to a good, decent enough level.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important. Sometimes I'll play ping pong or something, and people are like,
"How you can play?"
Another misconception, really.
It's a lot of things like vision impairments, I think a lot of it manifests like detail wise.
Sure.
Like I can't see fine details for anything, but you can train yourself to, at least I've kind of trained myself to be able to identify like moving objects, and like you get better at, like I have better reflexes than most of my friends, and like I can, you know, pick up on something moving a lot more, even though I'm much more blind.
Got it. Sort of switching gears back to, you know, your decision to come to college and your career and whatnot. How did you decide where you were going to college, and did vision play a part in that decision?
No and yes, because I'm from Missouri, and
Sure.
the school in I was either here or Missouri is what Alabama or Missouri is what I narrowed it down to, just because, you know, scholarship money, and then, you know, I don't know, I kind of like Alabama.
Sure.
But both of them had very good accommodations or ODS places.
So is that something you looked into before you came?
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, talk about that.
Because a lot of these disability services, they have to like justify why they exist, especially at colleges. So they're willing to like do a lot for you because it's their job to do it. And I don't know, coming to Alabama and going to the Missouri one, seeing both of them, they were both similar, as in they really want to help you because they really want to like justify their kind of existence, and they want you to come here and they want to help. And I mean, I don't know about your experience, but Alabama one has been pretty good to me, at least.
Yeah, I'm personally actually not registered with the ODS office. I've kind of just made my way and been okay, but I know that's just a choice that I've made. How did you think about, you know, living away from home in terms of like family support, which I'm sure you had? How did, you know, what's even a big decision for people without a vision disorder, you know, moving away from home for the first time? How did the vision play a role in that how you were thinking about that?
Vision played a role in knowing, like, I knew that I have to become familiar with areas a lot. It takes me a little bit longer. So like walking around, I don't notice land things as much, and so you have to figure out how to navigate a little bit better. So I knew that I'm going into a foreign environment, and I'm gonna have to like really pay attention to what's around me and get closer to things and see landmarks, knowing my way around stuff. But really, I was just kind of like, you know, life's short. Let's go somewhere, and once I get here, I'll figure it out. You know, sink or swim type thing.
Yeah, no, definitely makes sense. And once you got here, can you walk through what the process was like, talking to ODS for the first time, figuring out how you'd get registered and how that process would work?
Yeah, so to get registered, you gotta just go to their website and read through it. But you basically send over, you know, your confidential medical forms saying that you actually have a problem, and then you've gotten tested for it, and then you can they reach out to you, and then you show up for an appointment. And the lady I had is very nice. She's very helpful. She wants to help in all aspects, not just, you know, the disability. They want to help all over, so they're just there to help you. I don't know about extra time. Extra time I got for doing something else, but extra time honestly really does help with vision impairment. So if somebody has a vision impairment, I'd look into trying to get extra time, because I know that takes more than just sending over documents.
Okay.
You have to probably do some more testing of that sort to show that extra time will actually help you.
Got it. And you'd say the accommodations you've gotten through ODS, which I think you said like the bigger font exams, and either talk about any accommodations that we might have missed so far in the conversation, and you know, how helpful they've been.
I have all these accommodations now. Like you, I don't really use them, but I use them when I need them.
Sure.
It's good. Okay, it's good to have them, but if I think I can do without them, I got a little pride in me. I don't really want to use them.
Yeah.
But if I had to use them, I can. So one of them's like, if you send this kind of little hack, if you send a picture of you with a book to them, they'll give you the digital copy of the book. You need to have ownership, but you know, if you just hold the book up, you can get the book.
Interesting.
Online.
Yeah, I didn't know about that.
So, you sign up for ODS, get free books. So you know, they get digital copies. You can blow them up a lot bigger. A lot of tests right now are online actually, so I don't really have to use bigger text, but I think I have that one. I also have note taking. I haven't really used it because all my classes, I don't trust anybody else's notes. But
so what is note taking?
So note taking is you request a note taker for a class.
Okay.
And then they will take notes for you.
Okay, so someone else in the class takes over their notes, scans them in, and sends them to you.
Yeah, they just scan them and send them to you. I haven't really used it. I haven't really been in a class hard enough for me to use it, I don't think. Or maybe I just don't like doing it. And then extra time. Extra time is like a blessing.
Sure.
And then, because extra time also gives you testing in a different area, which really helps me.
Definitely. And in terms of any other micro level tips, just day to day, you mentioned your girlfriend reads out the menu to you if you're at, call it Panera or somewhere with the menu above the register.
Yeah.
Any other micro level tips and tricks that you've sort of picked up on that, hey, maybe if someone was just diagnosed, you can just point them and hey, don't worry about this because actually there's this technology or something that's got you covered, or anything like that you'd offer?
I like doing crafts. The phone's got a magnifier app. It helps with seeing things. Get over your fear of talking to people to help read out. It's not that much of a burden for someone to read something to you. And I'd say get involved in something where you actually use your eyes and use them in a way that isn't just seeing fine details.
Sure.
Where you're using them to process something while doing another action is how I would kind of say it. I think that's very important for someone with an eye impairment to excel.
Definitely. Yeah, and in terms of, our conversation, that's really most of the stuff I wanted to cover. It's been super, super helpful. Learned a lot myself, and hopefully whoever's listening can take a lot away from it too. So I'll just leave it to you to add any closing comments, any advice you'd give to someone who might have been recently diagnosed, and also to anyone that maybe has someone visually impaired in their life that might want to learn more about it, or anything you'd want to say to them.
Yeah.
Say to them too.
Yeah, go to the doctors. They know the best. Get an appointment. Talk to them. If you have somebody around you with an eye impairment, just talk to them about it. I'm open about it. I hope everybody else is open about it.
Yeah, I'm pretty open about it.
Yeah, it's a part of you. And then if you get recently diagnosed, don't sink into the boo-hoo, woe is me. Because it's there. It's always going to be there.
Right.
And you're just going to have to deal with it. And take a little pride knowing that, you got a little challenge. I think that's...
Yeah, I think that's a good place to wrap up. I think, once you have been diagnosed,
There's not much to do.
There's not much to do.
Deal with it and go ahead. Don't get caught, being in sorrow. I'm horrible with words.
Sorry for yourself.
Sorry for yourself. There we go. That's a way better way.
Cool, yeah. Cool. We'll wrap it up there. Thanks again, Blake, for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.